Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back. It's Mia, and today I'm here to give my spoiler-free review of Enola Holmes 2 on Netflix, as spoiler-free as possible. And I wore the most ugliest thing I've ever bought. I don't even know why I bought this, but it reminds me enough of Victorian England. Anyway, of course, that's the setting of this movie. If you've seen Enola Holmes 1, it was actually a really great movie, and I really enjoyed it, so I was looking forward to seeing this one, especially because I have just been a really big Sherlock Holmes fan. I think it goes without saying I was a huge BBC Sherlock fan, and so, but just any sort of iteration I love. I actually have a huge Sherlock Holmes book back there with my Sherlock and Watson Funko Pops. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about the movie because it's fun, but it's a little weird because I love the first movie so much that I actually bought the first two books. This is the second book in this franchise, and the first book was the first movie was pretty faithful to the first book, and so I decided to read this one just to kind of see how they would adapt it differently. I still have a couple of pages to go because I've been like reading it in between watching shows and other movies, but this one, there's a kind of a pretty big disparity I see now between what they're doing with the novels and how they're adapting the films. So to give a brief description of what happens, basically in the last movie, Enola, her mother left her all on her own to go have her own adventure, and now she's kind of accepted that she has to be alone in this movie, and she's out doing her own thing, trying to make a new detective agency for herself, and blah blah blah. She gets a new case about a missing girl, has to find the missing girl, and her case eventually kind of gets help from her brother Sherlock, or at least he tries to help her to solve the case. So it was fun. I know that's super general, but I mean, it's a mystery. But I think one of the biggest changes that they've made that I both like, I almost have some reservations about, but I like it nonetheless, is this addition of like more Sherlock Holmes. And when I first saw the first movie, I was like, wow, Henry Cavill is really good at being Sherlock Holmes. And so I was like, I need more of him in the sequel, and that's exactly what they gave us, and it's awesome. But a little part of me is like, but this is the Enola Holmes story. This is supposed to be centered on her and centered around her adventures. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to see Enola Holmes be a little more front and center, but the fact that Henry Cavill plays Sherlock Holmes so well, I'm like, I really can't complain. I do think the one problem, though, is that they kind of, and maybe this is taking away from the heart of the book, is that in the first movie, I think they did this well, where Enola kind of can match or outmatch Sherlock and her other brother Mycroft. And in this one, I feel like they kind of took her a level down, and I'm not sure if it's just the writing of the script or whatever happened, but Sherlock was always kind of on top. He was always, or could always be, one step ahead of her, figure things out more quickly. So I feel like it kind of takes away from what Enola was meant to be. It's like, yeah, I'm just as smart. Or, Sherlock uses his powers of deductive reasoning, right? And Enola Holmes didn't really do anything or like that. She tried, but it just didn't seem that she was, to be Stephen Moffat, clever enough. I just kind of wish they gave her a little bit more than being your average kind of Nancy Drew or, Scooby-Doo mystery sort of thing. The other thing that did change from the books, and it's not a spoiler, just kind of thematically, which I think is putting this movie in the right direction, is that these books, though it says they're written for, I don't know, but it says it's children's literature and they're expecting you to be in elementary school. I'm like, I don't think the average elementary school kid these days would be able to follow this book. Only because it's very dense in Victorian culture. The author, Nancy Springer, knows a lot about Victorian culture, more than I could ever know, or at least she does well passing it off that way. And so what they've kind of toned that down a little bit, especially because Enola's whole thing is that she is a young woman in Victorian society, and there's a lot of strict rules around that, so much so that in the books she has to be a master of disguise like Sherlock Holmes, in the way that, she kind of has to be sometimes presenting herself as male or one way or another, just so that people will take her seriously. And in this movie world, it's kind of like that. They do have a lot of feminism and girl power themes, but not half as much as was put into the books. But yeah, all that said, it was still a fun mystery, still kind of like, oh, maybe a tad predictable here and there, but I do like that they, from the books, they've lightened this up considerably. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fit for tween, teen, and young adult audiences. It's very fast-paced. My one huge maybe complaint was the editing is just all over the place. You go like from this cut to this cut to this cut, and it's like you don't have any time to let your eyes kind of rest. But that's just one thing, and I also kind of like this addition of adding in more Tewksbury, the Lord or Viscount from the last movie, kind of being like a little love interest for her. So I get it. It's very much now a modern teen romance, and I will also say there's a lot of kind of ex machina stuff that just kind of sometimes things magically just work or magically happen in a way that would never have happened, like 200 years ago, which to me takes away from the point of the novel. But at this point, the novel and the movies are like almost two separate entities. So yeah, I think that's about it, man. Oh, it was great to see Helena Bonham Carter again as the Holmes mother, and David Thewlis in this plays a pretty good character. It was great to see him back on Netflix after The Sandman. It was unfortunate there was no Sam Claflin there to play Mycroft, but we don't always need Mycroft in these Sherlock stories. Oops, see. I've already called it Sherlock. And yeah, overall, I think Henry Cavill and Millie Bobby Brown, they did a great job in their respective roles. And they had a pretty good chemistry as brother and sister. So I think the next movie might be a little more Sherlock Holmesian than anticipated. And they're building a lot of in-universe Sherlock stuff that it seems like, you know, I believe they'll have a third movie when that happens. But I mean, hey, it's still a fun ride for young adult fans of Sherlock Holmes, or just Millie Bobby Brown, or just Henry Cavill. So it's a good movie. I rated a B, and I really hope they do have a third movie. So we can keep it spoilers in the comments. I don't really care. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought. Do we need a part 3? I say yes. And please leave a like if you enjoyed this review. I'll be back tomorrow with another review, and I'll see you in that next video. Bye.